I never thought I'd become a spy in my own family. But when my cousin Jessica's message popped up in the family group chat at 2 in the morning, "We're renting your cabin for the summer," I knew the game had begun. They thought I was asleep, thought I'd just stay silent like I always did. They had no idea I'd installed a brand new security system just 1 week earlier. They also had no idea that the 8-hour drive up the mountain would be their last comfortable journey talking about me without consequences. Can you guess what they really said about me behind my back? Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. My name is Emma. I'm 32 years old, single, and I work as a freelance graphic designer. This mountain cabin is the only inheritance my mother left me when she passed away 2 years ago. That's also when I realized how truly alone I was within my own family. Jessica, my 28-year-old cousin, had always been the family's golden child with her stable marketing job and picture-perfect marriage. Michael, my 35-year-old cousin, was the successful engineer with 3 kids and a suburban mansion. And me, I was Weird Emma, the one who never attended family gatherings, had no children, and lived like a hermit in my mother's house. After Mom died, I moved up to this log cabin to find peace. But it wasn't because I wanted to isolate myself. It was because every time I went down to town, I heard the whispers. Emma still hasn't gotten over it. She needs time. We should give her space. But the truth was, they were relieved when I wasn't around. I could see it in their eyes every time I showed up. Jessica's message wasn't just an announcement, it was a declaration of ownership. The entire chat group responded immediately. "Great idea." From Michael, "Perfect for the kids." From his wife Sarah, "Finally some use for that place." From my Aunt Helen, "No one asked my opinion. No one thought they should ask permission first." In their eyes, this cabin, my mother's final legacy, was just an asset being wasted by a woman who didn't know how to seize opportunities. I sat in the darkness reading each message carefully. They had been planning this for a while. Jessica had already requested time off work. Michael had rented a large vehicle. Sarah had prepared toys for the children. Everything was perfect, except they hadn't informed the owner. But maybe that wasn't an oversight. Maybe it was intentional. They knew I wouldn't refuse. I had never refused them anything. That's when I remembered the security camera system I'd installed just last week after some break-ins in the area. It was a modern system with AI recognition, high-quality audio recording, and the ability to monitor everything live through my phone. Initially, I just wanted to protect the property, but now it could help me understand my family better. I typed my response. "Sounds great. Make yourselves at home." But my hands trembled as I typed. For the first time in my life, I would know what they really thought about me when I wasn't there. The next morning, I received a text from Jessica. "We're leaving now. Can't wait to finally relax without any drama." Drama? I had never caused any drama. Or was I the drama in their eyes? They left at 6 in the morning, and I began tracking their journey through Michael's car GPS. 8 hours of driving, enough time for real conversations to begin. I couldn't hear anything from inside the car, but I knew when they would arrive. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the black SUV appeared at the gate. I turned on the cameras and adjusted the angles to capture the moment they stepped out of the car. Michael got out first, stretching and looking around the cabin with an expression of satisfaction. Sarah carried little Emma, their 3-year-old daughter, while the 2 older boys, Jake, 10, and Tommy, 8, ran around the yard. Jessica and her husband David climbed out of their separate sedan. The first thing I noticed through the cameras, they had brought a lot of stuff, not just things for a summer vacation, but as if they planned to stay long-term. Cardboard boxes, large bags, even small furniture pieces. Jessica had brought her personal espresso machine and home decoration supplies. Finally, I heard Jessica's voice through the microphone. A place where we can actually relax. Mom always said Emma didn't know how to enjoy this place, Michael said while opening the trunk. Look at it. Prime real estate wasted on someone who just hibernates. Sarah, still holding the child, nodded. I mean, I get that she's grieving, but it's been 2 years. At some point you have to move on, right? Something in my chest tightened. They talked about my pain as if it were an inconvenience to them. Jake, Michael's older son, ran over and asked, Dad, why doesn't Aunt Emma live in a normal house like us? Michael stopped, looked at his son. Because some people choose to be different, son. They choose to live in the past instead of building a future. I had to pause the video. These words from Michael, the cousin I had once admired, the one I thought understood me best in the family. I realized I had never truly known what they thought of me. When I continued watching, Jessica was directing David on arranging their belongings. Put the espresso machine in the kitchen. We're going to make this place actually livable for once. Think Emma will mind if we rearrange some furniture? David asked. Jessica laughed dismissively. Emma won't even know. She never comes up here when we're around anyway. Besides, someone needs to show this place some love. They entered the house like owners. I watched them move from room to room, commenting on every corner of the cabin that my mother had spent her entire life building. This place has so much potential, Sarah said, standing in the living room. If it were mine, I'd tear down this wall, expand the kitchen, maybe add a deck. Mom left it to the wrong person, Michael said bluntly. Emma doesn't have vision. She doesn't have ambition. She's content with just existing. At this point, Tommy, the younger son, ran in and asked, Uncle Mike, why doesn't Aunt Emma have kids? Michael and Sarah exchanged glances. Sarah knelt down to the child's eye level. Some people are just different, sweetie. Some people aren't meant to have families. Is that why she's always sad? Tommy asked again. She's not sad, honey, Jessica interjected. She's just stuck. Some people get stuck and can't move forward. I felt my heart breaking, not because of the cruelty in their words, but because of how natural it sounded. They weren't being intentionally mean. They genuinely believed this was the truth about me. That evening, when the children were playing outside, the adults gathered in the living room, the same living room where my mother used to knit on winter evenings. They opened wine, laughed, and talked comfortably, and I heard their first real conversation. You know what I realized? Jessica said, sipping her wine. Emma living up here alone is actually perfect for everyone. How so? David asked. She's out of the way. We don't have to deal with her awkwardness at family gatherings. The kids don't have to be around her negativity, and she gets to play hermit, which is apparently what she wants. Michael nodded. It's a win-win. She gets her isolation, we get our peace. I just feel bad sometimes, Sarah said quietly. Maybe we should try harder to include her. Jessica shook her head decisively. Sarah, you're too kind. Trust me, I've known Emma my whole life. She doesn't want to be included. She wants to be the victim. It gives her an identity. Just then, Tommy ran in with something in his hand. Mom, I found this weird book upstairs. It has Aunt Emma's name in it, but it's full of pictures of us. Jessica took the photo album. The album I had spent 2 years creating, documenting every moment of the family. But instead of being touched, Jessica said, See? This is exactly what I mean. This is creepy. On the first night, when everyone had gone to bed, I continued monitoring through the infrared cameras. The house was quiet, only the sound of wind blowing through the old pine branches. But at 1 in the morning, I caught Sarah wandering alone through the house, holding a cup of tea, and stopping in front of the family photos hanging on the walls. Sarah stood for a long time in front of a photo taken when my mother was still alive, the last picture of the entire family at Mom's 60th birthday. In the photo, I stood slightly apart from the other members, my smile forced, but my eyes still looked toward Mom with pure love. "I'm sorry, Emma," Sarah whispered to the photo. "You didn't deserve what happened at the funeral." I jerked. Funeral? What had happened at the funeral that I didn't know about? Sarah continued speaking as if I were standing there. "We should have stood up for you when Uncle Robert said those things. We should have told everyone the truth about who really took care of Aunt Marie those last months. Uncle Robert, my mother's brother, who had flown from California for the funeral and delivered the eulogy. I remembered he had said something about devoted children, but I was too grief-stricken to pay attention at the time. Suddenly, Michael appeared from the kitchen, also holding a glass of water. "Can't sleep either." Sarah jumped. "Oh, I didn't hear you. You were talking to Emma's photo," Michael said, his tone unreadable. "I was just thinking about things." Sarah lowered her voice. "Mike, do you ever feel guilty about how we treat her?" Michael was silent for a moment, then sat down on the sofa. "Sometimes. But then I remember that Emma chose this. She chose to shut us out first." "Did she?" Sarah sat across from her husband. "Or did we make her feel like she had to?" "What do you mean?" "Remember when your mom was sick? Emma quit her job in the city to come take care of her. She gave up her apartment, her boyfriend, her whole life. And what did we do? We visited once a month and complained that Emma wasn't updating us enough." I felt my heart pounding. Finally, someone recognized my sacrifice. Michael frowned. "She never told us she needed help." "Because every time she tried, we said we were too busy. Remember the call she made asking if someone could stay with your mom so she could go to her friend's wedding? You said you had Jake's soccer tournament. I said I had a work deadline. Jessica said David was working overtime. That's different." "Those were legitimate reasons." "Were they?" Sarah looked straight into her husband's eyes. "Or were we just comfortable letting Emma handle everything because it meant we didn't have to?" Michael stood up, looking uncomfortable. "Emma is an adult. She made her choices. She made sacrifices," Sarah corrected. "There's a difference." They fell silent. Then Michael said, "Even if that's true, it doesn't change anything now. Emma has chosen to isolate herself. We can't force someone to be part of the family. Can't we?" Sarah stood up, walking to the window overlooking the forest. "When was the last time we actually invited her to something? Not just announced it and hoped she'd show up, but actually called her and said, 'We want you there.'" Michael didn't answer. Sarah turned back. "When was the last time we asked about her work, her feelings, her dreams? When was the last time we treated her like a person instead of just that weird cousin who lives in the mountains?" "She doesn't make it easy," Michael repeated, but his voice had lost its conviction. "Maybe because she's tired of trying," Sarah said gently. "Maybe because every time she reaches out, we make her feel like a burden." At this moment, Tommy's crying from upstairs interrupted the conversation. Sarah hurried upstairs, while Michael stood alone in the living room. He looked around the cabin. The photos, the objects my mother had collected throughout her life, the mementos I had carefully preserved. Michael stopped in front of a small photo of me with Mom taken just 1 month before she died. In the picture, my mother was frail but still smiling, and I sat beside her, holding her hand, my eyes red from exhaustion but still gentle. "I'm sorry, Emma," Michael whispered. "I'm sorry we let you carry everything alone." But then he shook his head, as if trying to dispel the thought, and went back to the bedroom. The next morning, life continued as normal. Michael and Sarah had breakfast with the children. Jessica and David planned their day. No one mentioned the previous night's conversation, but I noticed something had changed in how Sarah looked around the cabin. She no longer saw it as a wasted asset, but as a home full of memories. When Jessica suggested moving furniture to optimize the space, Sarah said, "Maybe we should leave things as they are." "Emma arranged them this way for a reason," Jessica laughed. "Since when do you care about Emma's interior design choices?" Sarah didn't answer, but I saw her quietly prevent David from moving my mother's favorite armchair. That afternoon, when the whole family was preparing to go hiking, Tommy made another discovery: a small box under the living room bed, containing hundreds of handwritten letters. "Look," the boy shouted, "Aunt Emma wrote letters to all of us." Jessica snatched a letter with her name on it, her face turning pale as she read the first lines. "Dear Jessica, I know you think I don't care about your life, but I think about you every day." The box of letters Tommy found contained 2 years of my loneliness documented in ink and paper. Hundreds of letters I had written to each family member. Apologies, explanations, stories about daily life I wanted to share but never dared to send. Jessica held the letter with her name, hands trembling as she opened it. David stood beside her while Michael and Sarah gathered around, the children playing outside, unaware of the emotional storm about to hit. Jessica read aloud, "Dear Jessica, I know you think I don't care about your life, but I think about you every day. I saw your promotion announcement on Facebook and I was so proud, but I didn't know if it was appropriate to comment. I wanted to call and congratulate you, but I was afraid you'd think I was being fake or trying to insert myself into your happiness." Jessica's voice grew quieter and stopped. She turned the page. "I remember when we were kids, you used to come to my house every summer. You said I was like the big sister you never had. I wonder if you remember that, or if you only remember the awkward adult I became. I miss the way you used to laugh at my silly jokes. I miss feeling like someone actually wanted me around." David gently placed his hand on his wife's shoulder. "Jess, there's more," Jessica said, her voice hoarse. "Pages and pages. Look at the date. She wrote this on my birthday. My birthday last year when I posted all those photos of my party and... oh God, she wasn't invited." Michael picked up another letter with his name. "To Michael, my successful cousin who has everything figured out. I know you see me as a failure, and maybe you're right, but I want you to know that everything I learned about being strong, I learned from watching you. When your dad left, you stepped up and took care of your mom. You were only 16, but you did what needed to be done. I tried to do the same thing when our mom got sick, but I guess I wasn't as strong as you." Michael stopped reading, his face pale. She looked up to me." Sarah held the letter meant for her but didn't dare open it. "I can't," she said. "This feels like reading someone's diary." "But she wrote them to us," Jessica said, her voice already hoarse. "She wanted us to know these things." "Then why didn't she send them?" Michael asked. David, who had been silent throughout this time, took the box of letters. "Look at the addresses." "She did try to send them. See? This one has a stamp, but it's been torn off. This one has your address written in pencil, then erased. She wanted to send them, but something stopped her every time." Jessica flipped through the other letters. God, there are so many. "Look, to Michael and Sarah on your anniversary, to Jessica on your wedding day, to the whole family at Christmas. She's been writing to us for 2 years. Sarah finally opened her letter. To Sarah, the kindest person I know. You always tried to include me, even when it was clear the others didn't want me there. You have this way of making people feel seen, and I want you to know that the few times I felt like I belonged somewhere, it was because of you. I'm sorry I'm so bad at showing appreciation. I'm sorry I make things awkward. I know it would be easier for everyone if I just stayed away, so that's what I'm doing. But please know that when I picture family, I picture your smile." Sarah began to cry, not quietly, but sobbing like someone who had just lost something precious they never knew they had. "We've been so wrong," she said through tears. "We've been so wrong about her." Jessica was reading another letter. She writes about Mom's funeral here. Listen to this. "I know Uncle Robert said I wasn't there enough during Mom's final days, and maybe he's right. Maybe I should have pushed harder for the rest of you to help. Maybe I should have been stronger, but I was scared. Scared of losing her, scared of being alone, scared of asking for help and being told I was being dramatic. When he said those things at the funeral, part of me believed them. Maybe I wasn't a good enough daughter. Maybe that's why I'm alone now." Michael punched the wall hard. Uncle Robert didn't know shit. Emma was there every single day for 6 months. She bathed Mom, fed her, slept in a chair next to her bed. "But Emma doesn't know we know that," Sarah said. "She thinks we agreed with Uncle Robert. She thinks we blame her too." David found the most recent letter. This one is from last month. "I've decided to stop writing these letters. It's been 2 years and nothing has changed. Maybe this is just how families grow apart, slowly, then all at once. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just tired. I'm tired of missing people who don't miss me back. I'm tired of loving people who see that love as neediness. I think it's time to accept that some people are meant to be alone, and I might be one of them." The room fell frighteningly silent. Sarah's crying was the only sound, mixed with the wind blowing through the windows. Jessica finally spoke. "What have we done?" "We broke her," Michael said, his voice flat as stone. "We broke the one person in this family who loved us unconditionally, and we didn't even notice." Tommy ran in from outside. "Mom, why are you crying? And why is everyone being so quiet?" Sarah hugged her son. "Mommy just realized we hurt someone we love very much." "Aunt Emma?" Tommy asked with the frightening intelligence of children. Sarah nodded. "Yes, baby. Aunt Emma. Can we say sorry to her?" The adults looked at each other. How could they apologize for 2 years of neglect? How could they make up for wounds they didn't even know they had caused? Jessica stood up with determination. "We have to try. We have to find a way to make this right." "How?" Michael asked. "How do we even begin?" "I don't know," Jessica admitted, "but we have to try. We owe her that much." At this moment, Jessica's phone rang. A text from me. "Hope you're enjoying the house. I'm going to be out of town for a while. Make yourselves comfortable. There's more food in the basement freezer if you need it." Jessica looked at the text, then back at the letters. She's running away. She's running away because she knows we're here, and she thinks we don't want her around. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't going anywhere. I was sitting in a small cabin 2 miles away watching everything unfold through the cameras. They decided to find me, not because they felt obligated, but because for the first time they understood that they needed me more than I needed them. Jessica began calling me, but I didn't answer. Michael drove down to town to ask around, but no one knew where I was. "She could be anywhere," Sarah said, worried. "What if she's really gone? What if we've lost our chance?" But Tommy, with the wonderful intuition of children, offered a suggestion. "Maybe Aunt Emma is like me when I'm sad. I hide in places where I can still see everyone, but they can't see me." David looked at the boy. "What do you mean, buddy?" "Like behind the big tree in our backyard. I can watch you and Mom, but you don't know I'm there." Jessica gasped. "The old cabin." There's an old hunter's cabin about 2 miles up the trail. Emma showed it to me when we were kids. She said it was her secret place. They decided to search, but not all together. Sarah stayed with the children while Michael, Jessica, and David set out. I watched them leave through the security camera at the gate, 3 people carrying flashlights and a backpack with food. From my small cabin, I could see their flashlight beams moving along the trail. They walked slowly, carefully, calling my name each time they stopped. The sound echoed through the pine forest, and for the first time in 2 years, I heard my name called with genuine concern. "Emma!" Jessica shouted. "Emma, we know you're here. We need to talk to you." "We found your letters," Michael called out. "We're so sorry, Emma." "We're so damn sorry." They reached near the cabin. I could clearly hear footsteps on dry leaves. David suggested, "Maybe we should just wait here." If she's inside, she knows we're here. Ball's in her court now. They sat on the cabin porch. I could hear every word through the thin wooden door. Jessica began to speak. "Emma, I don't know if you can hear me, but I need to say this. I read your letter, the one about my promotion. You were proud of me. You've always been proud of me, haven't you? Even when I treated you like you were invisible." She paused, her voice trembling. "I remember when we were kids. I remember how you used to braid my hair and tell me stories. I remember how you defended me when the older cousins said I was too young to play with them. You were my big sister in every way that mattered." Michael continued, "I read what you wrote about Dad leaving. You said you learned strength from watching me. But Emma, I learned strength from watching you. When Mom got sick, I couldn't handle it. I visited once a month because that's all I could emotionally handle. But you moved your entire life to take care of her. You sacrificed everything, and instead of thanking you, we resented you for making us feel guilty." David, the person least familiar with me, said, "I only met you a few times, Emma, but Jessica talks about you more than you know. She talks about the cousin who taught her to be brave, who stood up to bullies for her, who made her feel special. She never told you this, but on our wedding day, she cried because you weren't there. Not because you chose not to come, but because she realized she'd never properly invited you." I felt tears streaming down my cheeks. I remembered Jessica's wedding day. I had seen the photos on Facebook, seen the whole family having fun, and felt like a complete outsider. Jessica continued, "I want to tell you about Mom's funeral. What really happened. Uncle Robert said those things about you not being there enough, and we just sat there. We let him say it because we felt guilty. We felt guilty that you did everything while we did nothing. It was easier to let him blame you than to admit we were the ones who failed." Michael stood up, walked to the cabin window. "Emma, you were there every day for 6 months. You quit your job. You gave up your relationship. You gave up your life in the city. You fed her, bathed her, read to her, held her hand when she was scared. You did what a daughter does, what children do. We visited when it was convenient and told ourselves we were giving you space, when really we were just cowards. The truth is," David said, "we need you more than you need us." Jessica lights up when she talks about childhood memories with you. Michael mentions you constantly. Emma would know how to fix this. Emma always had good advice about this. You're woven into who we are, and we've been idiots not to show you that. I placed my hand over my heart. These words couldn't be real. They couldn't really feel this way about me. Jessica continued, her voice already hoarse. "I know why you stopped writing those letters. You said you're tired of loving people who don't love you back. But Emma, we do love you. We've always loved you. We're just really, really bad at showing it." They sat in silence for a while. Then Michael said, We're not leaving, Emma. We're going to sit here all night if we have to. We're not leaving until you know how much you mean to us. And if you never want to see us again, Jessica said, we'll understand. We'll respect that. But first, please let us try to make this right. I sat inside the cabin, my back against the door, listening to them talk through the night. They told stories about memories with me that I had forgotten, times I had helped them that I thought they didn't remember, ways I had positively influenced their lives that I never knew about. When dawn broke, I finally opened the door. They looked up at me with expressions of amazement and hope. But the first thing I said wasn't, I forgive you or I understand. Instead, I said, do you know why I installed those cameras? Not to catch burglars, but to understand why my family could live comfortably when I wasn't around. I held up my phone. I've watched everything. I heard every word you said about me over the past 2 days. The moment of silence stretched terrifyingly long. Michael, Jessica, and David looked at me as if they had just seen a ghost. Jessica was the first to speak. You heard everything. I nodded, my eyes still red from a sleepless night. Everything. From the moment you arrived yesterday until now. Michael stood up, his face pale. Emma, listen. Some of those things we said were your honest thoughts. I cut him off. For the first time in my life, I heard what my family really thinks about me when they think I'm not listening. David looked down at his feet, feeling awkward for not being a blood relative, but still being involved in this situation. I continued, my voice frighteningly calm. I heard Jessica say that I choose to be a victim to have an identity. I heard Michael say that Mom left the house to the wrong person. I heard you all discuss how I'm stuck and can't move forward. Jessica began to cry. Emma, we didn't mean... But you also said other things, I continued. I heard Sarah talk about how you all let me carry everything alone. I heard Michael admit that none of you could handle taking care of Mom. And I heard you all read the letters I never sent. I sat down on the cabin steps facing them. Do you know how I've lived these past 2 years? They shook their heads. I wake up every morning and wonder if anyone in the family remembers me. I check Facebook to see what you're all doing, but I never dare to comment because I'm afraid of being seen as intrusive. I wrote those letters because it was the only way I could feel connected to the family, even when that connection was one way. Michael sat down next to me. Why didn't you just call us? Do you remember the last time you called me? I asked back. Not to ask me for something, not because there was an emergency, but just to ask if I was okay. Michael thought, then shook his head. That's the problem, I said. I was always the one who called first. I was always the one who reached out first. And at some point, I got tired of feeling like I was forcing myself into everyone's lives. Jessica sat down on the other side. But we thought you wanted space. After Mom died, you seemed so closed off. I closed off because every time I tried to share my emotions, you all said, you need time to heal or you'll feel better soon. No one wanted to hear about my pain. No one wanted to hear about how much I missed Mom. So I learned to suffer alone. David finally spoke up. Emma, I know I'm not family by blood, but I've watched Jessica struggle with missing you for 2 years. She talks about you constantly. She wonders what you're doing, how you're feeling, whether you hate us. I don't hate you, I said. That's the problem. I love you all too much, to the point where I'm willing to disappear so you can be more comfortable. Jessica sobbed. We never wanted you to disappear. We wanted you to be part of our lives. We just didn't know how to bridge the gap that formed after Mom died. The gap formed before Mom died, I corrected. It formed when I moved back here to take care of Mom, and you all kept saying, "We'll help when we can," but when we can never came. Michael bowed his head. You're right. We left you to handle everything because it was easier than facing the reality that Mom was dying. And when Mom died, you left me to handle the grief alone, too, I continued. Uncle Robert could say those things about me at the funeral, but the truth is I was there every single day. I held Mom's hand when she took her last breath. I cleaned up after she was gone. And instead of being comforted, I was blamed for not doing enough. We sat in silence. The sound of birds chirping and wind through the leaves was the only noise. Finally, Jessica said, "How do we fix this? How do we make it right?" I looked at the three of them. People I had loved my entire life. People who had hurt me unintentionally. People who were finally willing to listen to me. I don't know if it can be fixed, I said honestly. But if you really want to try, then we have to start with honesty. No more pretending everything is fine. No more treating me like I'm fragile. No more making assumptions about what I want or need. Michael nodded. What do you need from us? I need to know that I matter, I said. I need to feel like I belong somewhere. I need to know that if I disappeared tomorrow, someone would notice and would care. You matter, Jessica said firmly. You've always mattered. We were just too stupid and scared to show it properly. And you belong with us, Michael added. Family isn't perfect, Emma. We mess up. We hurt each other. We take each other for granted. But that doesn't mean we love each other any less. I looked at them, faces I had known since childhood, now full of regret and hope. This is going to take time, I said. Rebuilding trust isn't something that happens overnight. We have time, David said. We have all the time you need. I stood up, looking toward the log cabin where Sarah and the children were waiting. Okay, let's go home and start over. But this time, we do it the right way, with honesty, with patience, and with commitment from everyone. As we began walking down the trail, I added, and Jessica, next time you want to use the cabin, just ask. It's still my home, but now I know it can be your home too. 6 months later, I received a message in the family group chat. Emma, we're planning Thanksgiving at your place this year, if you're okay with it. We want to start some new traditions. This time, I wasn't just okay with it, I was excited. The months following the confrontation at the small cabin hadn't been easy. There were days I still felt like an outsider, moments when my old defensive habits resurfaced. But the entire family was committed to change. Michael called me every week, not to ask for anything, but just to check in. Sarah invited me to the children's school events, and when I attended, she made sure I was introduced as our beloved cousin Emma, instead of just Emma. Jessica and I began monthly coffee dates where we actually talked about work, about relationships, about dreams and fears. Most importantly, they had learned how to apologize when necessary and how to listen when I talked about my feelings. On Thanksgiving Day, the log cabin was filled with laughter and the aroma of turkey. Tommy, now 9 years old, helped me set the table while telling me about school. Jake, 11, showed me magic tricks he had learned. Little Emma, now 4, sat in my lap while the adults cooked. Aunt Emma, little Emma said, Mommy says you were sad for a long time, but now you're happy again. I looked at Sarah, who was smiling and nodding encouragingly. I was sad, sweetie, I told my niece. Sometimes grown-ups get sad when they feel alone. But I'm not alone anymore. Because we found you in the woods, Tommy asked, remembering the adventure from 6 months ago. Because you came looking for me, I corrected. That made all the difference. At dinner, Michael stood up to propose a toast. To Emma, for teaching us that family isn't just about being related, it's about choosing each other every day. To second chances, Jessica added. To honesty, even when it's hard, Sarah said. To love that's strong enough to survive our mistakes, David concluded. I felt tears in my eyes, but this time they were happy tears. After dinner, when the children were playing board games, the adults sat around the fireplace. Jessica brought out the photo album, the one I had created 2 years earlier, the one she had once called creepy. I want to apologize again for what I said about this, she said. This isn't creepy. This is love. This is you documenting our family because you cared about preserving our memories. She opened to the first page. Look at these photos. Look how you captured all of us at our happiest moments. You saw the best in us even when we couldn't see it ourselves. Michael pointed to a photo of himself with the children. I remember this day. Jake had just learned to ride his bike. You drove 2 hours just to watch him ride around the driveway. Because it mattered to you, so it mattered to me, I said simply. That's who you are, Sarah said. You're the person who shows up. You're the person who cares about the details. You're the heart of this family, Emma. I looked around at their faces, faces I had missed, faces I had loved, faces I finally felt comfortable around again. I want to tell you something, I said. Those 2 years alone, they weren't wasted. They taught me how to be happy by myself. They taught me my own worth. So when you came looking for me, I didn't come back because I needed you. I came back because I wanted to be here. That's even better, Jessica said, smiling. Tommy ran over from the game table. Aunt Emma, will you read us a story before bed? Of course, I said, standing up. Read the one about the family who got lost but found each other again, Jake requested. I laughed. I don't know that story. Yes, you do, little Emma said seriously. It's our story. As I tucked the children into bed upstairs, in the house that now truly felt like home again, I realized they were right. This was our story. A story about getting lost and finding each other, about love that survives mistakes, about family that chooses to grow. Later that night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I sat on the porch looking up at the stars. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Thank you for not giving up on us, even when we gave up on you. I texted back, thank you for coming to find me. Michael's response came next. We'll always come find you, Emma. That's what family does. And for the first time in years, I believed it. I turned off my phone and walked back inside, past the photos on the walls, photos that now told our complete story, including the difficult chapters. Tomorrow, I'll start a new photo album. This one won't be about missing family or loving from a distance. This one will be about being present, about being seen, about belonging. This one will be about coming home. The security cameras that had once revealed painful truths now captured moments of genuine joy. The cabin that had been my refuge became our gathering place, and the letters I had never sent were replaced by conversations I was finally brave enough to have. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't forgetting the pain, but transforming it into something that brings us closer together. My family didn't just find me in those woods that night. We found each other, and that made all the difference.